thank you for the opportunity to speak here. This was like pre-morbidly. This is a new word that I learned after the accident, pre-morbidly. This was me before the accident. Family, 2 young children, my wife's here, long-suffering wife, and I'm glad she's still here. And my passion was cars, motorbikes. I don't like football. I'm agnostic about football. Sorry about that, United fan, whoever said it. But I like going out into the Peak District, whether it's walking, hiking, horse riding, whatever it was. This was my life. So very active. I also ran a management consultancy business. So I generally work with large companies doing process improvement stuff, strategy improvement. So I worked all around the world and had a great amount of time until August the 2nd, 2019. It's funny how these dates get indelibly mentioned. I was riding my motorbike, minding my own business, doing 50 and a 50, when an 80-year-old gentleman who was lost and sat nav said, "Turn right." So he did, directly in front of me while I was riding that motorbike. And that's the remains of it after it. I'm extremely lucky to be here today. I had to get air ambulance to hospital. I'll tell you about, essentially, roadkill. I think that's probably, if you add all these things up, it's basically roadkill. For those of you that were nurses, the Glasgow coma score, I scored 3. And apparently that's the lowest compatible score for life. So I'm extremely good to be here. So I smashed myself up with lots and lots of MSK type stuff. Because my arm got ripped off in the accident, I bled out significantly. So there's a hypoxic injury. And also if you hit a vehicle at 50 miles an hour, you get shaken around a bit. And that's the hypoxic brain injury as well. So plenty of things to be going at. Brachial plexus injury, so that links quite into where's Holly gone? She was there a certain moment ago. She's gone now. So linking into the stuff there. And also, because I think when I landed, my neck went that way. And so a lot of the nerves just got ripped out. So I don't have any of the rotator cuff muscles or anything around here. So I was in extreme pain with subluxation for quite a while, because this arm was just bouncing around. So we had to get that fixed. And then also, it was great that the people in hospital fixed me back together, a bit like Humpty Dumpty being all put back together again. But they put this leg now 2 centimetres shorter than this leg. So there's lots of gait and balance, and then your posture and your hips are at the wrong angle, and then that flares up loads of other pain. And then all of that kind of stuff with phantom pain, brachial plexus and nerve pain, and the musculoskeletal pain. It's just not a really happy place to be at all at that point. So things like fatigue. I've not slept properly since the accident, and that's now 5.5 years ago. It really does. If you're trying to engage with therapy and you've only slept 2 hours that night, it's really hard to then get on and do stuff. But it's stuff that you have to get on and do. So things that then pick me up again. The subluxation was one of the first bits that we tried to address, and this is actually the bolts that they came in, and they jokingly said, "Oh, we're going to put some pins in," and I'm thinking pins are like this, and turns out they're considerably larger. So that goes straight through my humeral head into the scapula, and that means that my arm's now fixed. So that took a big chunk of pain out of the way. But other than that, I think the stuff that people have said before, you need to have a good MDT around you. You really need to have a good team of people that empathise what's happening. They can't feel what you're happening, but you guys are all the experts. You kind of know what the symptoms play out like and how to deal with it. But to deal with it, the MDT was really, really quite key. And I had to do, well, from everything from neuropsychology, and I'll name drop. So I've not met Jan before, but it's her husband, Mike Smith, was treating me for 5 years. So there's probably lots of secrets you're not allowed to tell at this point. But he was excellent. I had occupational therapy. I had speech and language therapy. I had to learn. I had a trachea. So in the hospital, just to rewind one, I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks, and then I was in ICU in Stoke for, I think it was 6 weeks, and then they transferred me to the ICU in Sheffield, which is where I live, and I was there for another about 6 weeks, and then into a spinal unit in Sheffield, which is absolutely excellent, and they really helped with the rehabilitation bit. But I was in hospital for 4 months. It's crap. I mean, I'm sorry. It's you guys are all trying to do things here, but when you're in hospital for 4 months, it's not a particularly pleasant place to be. But you need to have the people that step in while you're in the hospital. Then, as you leave hospital to go into the big bad world, that actually the support mechanisms are actually there to help you to go through it. So that I felt was extremely helpful. So moving forward, I then tried to get back into a really quite active life, and I don't think anyone's here from not Blatchford's, Dorset Orthopaedics. Steps Prosthetics wasn't around at the time. They helped me fix up with getting back to cycling again. When I went back to cycling, the OT suggested that really you shouldn't be on 2 wheels anymore. You should stick to a trike, and you should do those things. And I thought, I look disabled enough without having a trike with a big flag on that says disabled person riding past. I thought, no, I'm going to get straight onto a push bike. And then they got me this disabled arm here, which is quite cool. It's got a little shock absorber on there, so it takes the hit as you're riding. But that's helped me get back onto 2 wheels again. And really, one of my passions was always bikes and motorcycles. So this is me on non-powered wheels. But for those of you that are local to Manchester, this is in Sale. I lived in Sale for 18 years before I moved to Sheffield, which is where I live. And then in terms of then doing things that other people tell you that you cannot do, I decided to go and start clay pigeon shooting. One of my friends shoots. I've never done it before. He took me along, and I thought, you know what, this looks like fun. As long as I beat some able-bodied people, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to give a little plug to these guys, Peak District Clay Pigeon Shooting, because when my OT and him turned up and said, I've got a client, he wants to go shooting. So yeah, he's only got one arm. I was like, yeah, okay. And then they sat through and they went through all of the steps to get through to do this safely, because it's a dangerous sport. But then to be able to do that was really, really good fun to do that. So the guy in red there, that was my OT. I don't know, I think he's in a film prop or something when he's got the gun like that. And then I brought my son along here, and the chap on the left side was my, what would you call it, support worker, or your person who sort of helps with me. So this was great to go and do something that was a bit more, it feels like life again. Not crawling around doing stuff. And I tried all sorts of stuff. So it's not just the medication. It's not just about getting a prosthetic. It's not about those things. But a lot of it is about pain. And those combinations of musculoskeletal pain, the brachial plexus pain, and then having phantom pain, which it's nuts to describe what phantom pain feels like. And when I was in hospital, I honestly thought I was going mad, that I was feeling pain from bits of me that doesn't even exist anymore. But it was only when someone then explained that this is normal that I then started to get to grips with it. So things like this with the pain, things like so there's acupuncture, and I also tried the electric acupuncture as well. It was possibly too early in my journey. It didn't work as well, but I might go back and revisit that after the previous people. But you have to look at it from more of a holistic point, which is I'd try everything. I'd honestly give anything a go at this point. There's no silver bullet that will then change your life, but it's about just those like salami slice, you just take a little bit off every single time. And if I could even just take 5% off the pain, then that's well worth it. So, I mean, things like the hypnosis and I forget again, Holly said something about, what was it? Not relaxation, what do you call it? Mindfulness. Oh, good God. When I was in hospital, and it's like, and someone was saying, oh, mindfulness. And why don't you just think, oh, well, you're on a beach and you're there and you're dipping your toes in the water. And I'm thinking, I've got raging pain here. What are you talking about? But things like the breathing exercises and those kind of things, I found hydro extremely useful for me to get back to walking again, having had 2 broken legs. And then a long stay in hospital. But then I now find I've got a hot tub at home, not for social purposes, but for pain release. And so it really helps me at night time. And it's interesting, I didn't realise that this pattern was so predictable that for me, I'm all right in the morning, gets worse in the afternoon, and then at some point, do you remember the advert with the Duracell bunny bopping around, right? I'm the alternative brand. So the Duracell bunny's banging around, and I'm the one that was like, and then stops. Because you just can't push on. And for me, this was an anathema, is that the right word? I hated it because I've been hugely independent, run my own businesses, always at 110 miles an hour. And then they had to use this word, pacing. I was like, oh, I hate it. But actually, with the brain injury, there is physical fatigue, but there's also cognitive fatigue. So even just getting up in the morning for me, getting dressed and like, I'll tell you what, my wife did my buttons today because life's too short to lose it. I use zips and stuff like that, but everything that you do takes effort. And you've only got, when you've got a brain injury particularly, you've only got so many like energy credits per day, and every time you're doing something, and if it's emotional or it's stressful, it's even harder to do it. So I've had to learn to sort of balance it out a little bit. I've got to say, and my wife would attest, I'm not good at it yet, but I'm practicing at it. But I would honestly say to anyone, just try anything. It might work, it might not work, but if you haven't tried it, you've got no idea. So I'm going to jump on. So I feel very guilty now because there's now been 2 different presenters before, maybe 3, that are asking for your money. I'm kind of going to be doing that as well. So one of the things that I've now been doing post-accident is I do a lot of peer support. So I go to steps. One of the part of my rehabilitation, I went to steps for 6 weeks, which really to help me get over this chronic pain and chronic no sleeping. And for those of you who have been these residential ones, it is a regime. You are absolutely knackered. They keep you busy all the way through the day. But for someone who's got an overactive mind, that's really helpful. So I go to steps every once a month. I'm there tomorrow, just to give the guys there a little bit of peer support from someone who's been there, felt it, and been there. So whether it helps or not, I don't know, but it's usually a bit of a talking therapy, and people open up quite a lot about how they're feeling, whether it's phantom pain, whether it's something else. It really doesn't matter whether it's about the accommodation that they're trying to get to afterwards. There's any kind of thing that we might be able to talk about. And then a different thing that we started, it's only about a year old now, but separate to steps as the facility, there's now a foundation. And one of the things that I realised through the accident is I'm extremely lucky, because my accident was caused by a road traffic accident, and it was somebody else's fault, and it was proven to be somebody else's fault, so you get the interim payment, and I got all the help that I needed. And I then realised, looking around at other individuals, if I'd have just been painting my house and then fell backwards on a ladder and smacked my head or had some horrendous injury, after you've left the NHS, you're on your own. I mean, there is services out there, but they're patchy. And one of the things that we're trying to do is for people that don't have the legal support or the claim, that have had a horrendous injury like this, a life-changing injury rather, we're trying to help those people, whether it's aids, whether it's adaptions, whether it's physio, whether it's psychological help. And psychological help, I think, is missed from quite a lot. For the people that I talk to who've had the injuries, the psychological bit seems to be missing from a lot of the people, and I think that's something to be key. So whatever the help is, we're going to try and plug that gap. And the thing that we're going to try and do in this bottom bit here in June, I'll move around, that QR code, if you link to that, we're starting a fundraising idea where whether it's individuals or whether it's teams of people get together, and we're just going to do some whatever fundraising you could do in or up to or during July, June. Sorry, I didn't get the wrong date right, but thank you for the prompt. We're going to be basically trying to bring that money into the charitable foundation. We have got funds in there already. The steps themselves have already put a very generous seed funding in there. But in terms of this one, in terms of a challenge, just make it a bit more fun. If you come up with something really inventive, whether I don't know, how far can you go in 24 hours as a team or those kind of things, we'll give a seed fund for £250 or up to £250 if you need to buy a marathon place or whatever it is. All we're asking is if you can just return that fourfold as a minimum, then that would be brilliant. So, and then the other thing that I would be very interested in is for you guys in like corporate or business world, what help you could give, whether it's we're going to be doing a ball, a black tie ball in next June, and things like the presents for that could be around a physio, or it could be something else for that. There's all sorts of stuff that you could add from that, whether you'd like to be a sponsor or something like that. I'd be very interested in working with any of you to do that. Now, I'm very conscious of time, so whether it's about this steps thing or anything else, I'm conscious that we want to have a bit more of an interaction with you guys because you've been sat there for ages. Are there any questions for me at all? And if not, you can go and get a cup of tea.
Are you going to do competitive clay pigeon shooting?
Yes. So for that definitely. I'm getting my eye in at the moment for clay pigeon shooting, and so I'm going to try and do that competitively. But I'm going to also try and raise one of the ideas is to have a clay pigeon shoot, like a charity one. So I'm going to try and get that up and running as well, maybe later on this year.
Do you think family therapy is
Oh, good God! Thank you for saying that. So I've now got some notes and then didn't look at them at all. So the ripple effect. Who mentioned that before? Was that you before? So important. I think the people around the person who has the injury has all the attention. You know, they get all the help, they get the care, they get looked after. It's the people around that don't get it. And the bit I'd be extremely, I try to encourage you to do it, is to really support the families or friends or that kind of growing ecosystem around it, because without my wife sort of picking up the reins and massively supporting, running the household, looking after the kids while I was recovering, I was able to be selfish and just recover. When it comes to brain injury, I didn't understand it at the time, and I'm not so sure that most people understand about brain injury. And when it comes to the effects that brain injury has from a person who's then dealing with all the trauma, and you come into the household and you're changed slightly, subtly. So things like irritability, fatigue, pain, it all starts playing up. So there are times when I'm not a particularly nice person, and you know, trying to do that. So having whatever help you can have to help that. And actually, the psychologist came to the house and gave just about 2 or 3 sessions with us, a private session, said, this is what the brain injury is. This is the type of brain injury that you've had. This is how it's liking to play out. Here's some strategies that we're going to be able to help with that. And just even those 2 or 3 sessions massively helped the family. So thank you for prompting that.